Are you wondering how HTTPS actually works and how it differs from HTTP? In this video, I'm going to try to explain it so anybody can understand.
Hey guys, Chris Love, the owner of Love Dev. Today I just wanted to kind of show you how HTTPS works, or at least explain it, and kind of how it differs from using HTTP, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why or what it does to protect you from the bad guys. So without any further ado, let's go to it. So first off, basically when you visit a website and you're using HTTP, what we call a passive attacker can hit you. And basically, let's say you're at a coffee shop or a restaurant, anywhere you're potentially using public Wi-Fi. It's very simple. As long as the bad guys got an antenna, they can essentially sit there and log all the data that's going through the air. And if it's in plain text, which is what HTTP will be, when I say plain text, it also means images and things like that, they can also just view, okay? And that's what's going on. So if you're on, potentially sensitive sites, they can see exactly what you're doing. Some scenarios I've been kind of taught about is maybe you're doing research for work or stock investment, and you need to keep like your research private or without prying eyes. Corporate espionage can sit there and see what's going on, or maybe somebody who's going to create some fake news to tank a stock or make it rise or something to go the opposite of what you're doing. Who knows? Anyway, that stuff's just out there in the open. Now, the way TCP IP works when you're using HTTPS, you got to think about this kind of layered stack of protocols. Now down here you've got Internet Protocol and TCP protocol, TCP protocol, whatever. Don't worry about those too much. But here's the Hypertext Transport Protocol, or HTTP, and this would be your plain text data. But when you use TLS, which stands for Transport Layer Security, that makes it secure. And that's where the S part of HTTPS comes from. The S stands for secure. That's because this layer encrypts the data here. So to see the data here, you have to go through that TLS shield. And if you don't have the public and private keys to encrypt and decrypt the data, you're not going to be able to see what's going on here with the data packets. So let's go back to our passive attacker. So now we've got HTTPS enabled. And the problem is or at least the good thing is, the passive attacker can't read the data going back and forth. The best the attacker will be able to do is see what URLs you're loading, and that's effectively all they're going to see. They're not going to see what data was pushed back and forth, and that's always a good deal for protecting you. Now, alternatively, you could have an active attacker, and this is more commonly known as the man-in-the-middle attack. And this is where the attacker would set up some sort of proxy in the middle. Maybe they've compromised a router on the internet or something, and they're logging all of the information coming through that router. Or maybe they're trying to phish you or something like that. It's those kind of scenarios that you're guarding against. So what they'll do is they will reroute you from the site that you want to go to over to their fake version of the site sometimes. This is kind of a typical phishing attack, but it could also be what we call the man-in-the-middle, where essentially they siphon off the traffic to the real site to their fake pages, trying to collect, passwords or banking information or social security numbers for identity theft or what have you. And this can easily happen with HTTP because they can see more what's going on in those middle parts. And if they do compromise that router in the middle somewhere, and they are in charge of controlling where domains resolve to, or where paths resolve to, or Is resolve to, they can make that go anywhere they want to. Now, if you've got your TLS layer in place, even if they do compromise that router in the middle. When you try to communicate to the fake server, the identity is compromised, and that means that the browser won't honor the data coming back from that server. And if you're worried, the attacker will not be able to decrypt the data going to the server, or even if they're acting as a middleman and even passing you along to the right server, they're still not going to be able to see the communications because they don't have the keys to encrypt and decrypt the data effectively. So it's all just jumbled up, characters to them. They can't really tell what's going on. Now, the way HTTPS works is that it adds some extra back and forth to the regular HTTP communication stack. And this happens when the connection is initiated. So it starts off with you requesting connection to the receiver or the server here. And basically there's what we call an ACK-NACK kind of thing going back and forth. I won't get into geek speak so much here, but basically you initiate and then the server comes back and says, yep, I'm here. And then there's what we call a hello exchange that goes on. And the server says, hello, here's the stuff for the certificate. The client kind of verifies the certificate the keys and the ciphers. And at that point, at this point right here, the secure connection is established, and now you start sending back and forth the real data, and it's going to be covered in that HTTPS security blanket. Now I've got some numbers here. These are just kind of rough numbers based on kind of some industry averages. I honestly see this happen way faster than this in the real world, especially with HTTP2. This little part right here does not take near this amount of time. Typically I see numbers a lot of times under 50 milliseconds for this whole exchange and encryption side to really kick in. Now, if you are wanting to know more about using HTTPS, I've got a course on progressive web apps which require HTTPS to work. Things like service workers and a lot of new APIs, things like that. Anytime you're dealing with sensitive data, search engine optimization, all these kind of things all rely on HTTPS. And progressive web apps are a great new way to build websites that really engage customers. And I've got a course that right now is sitting with over 20 hours of video content to train you on how to start your progressive web app journey and become a progressive web application expert. And if you visit pwacourse.com, that'll take you directly to the course registration page where you can save $171 off the regular $200 list price, and you can start your journey for the best price possible. Thanks a lot. If you've got any questions about HTTPS, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. And I've got a lot more content in the queue to post, so you definitely don't want to miss that. So hit that subscribe button and make sure you're in the loop for everything that I will be posting. Thanks a lot.